A Mafia boss rejected every girl until the poor black woman slapped him in public. Nobody had ever dared to challenge him before. The nursing student was just trying to pay her mother's medical bills when she took the job at his exclusive club. Instead of killing her for the insult, he makes her his personal assistant, keeping her prisoner in a luxury apartment beneath his penthouse. Day by day, she sees glimpses of the wounded boy behind his cold exterior. Night by night, their forbidden attraction grows stronger. But when she discovers his plans to eliminate an entire rival family, her world shatters. The man she's falling for is targeting someone from her past who once helped her family survive. As bullets fly and betrayal cuts deep, her choice between loyalty and love ignites a war that neither side can win. Will her defiance destroy them both? Or could one slap be powerful enough to transform a ruthless monster into the man he was meant to become? Through the dark corridors of Valhalla, the security guards marched Zara with firm grips on her arms. Her heart hammered against her ribs, the reality of what she'd just done crashing over her like ice water. The plush carpeting muffled their footsteps, but each step felt like a countdown to her doom. "I can walk on my own," she said, trying to maintain dignity despite her trembling voice. The guards ignored her, their faces impassive as stone. They reached a set of imposing double doors made of dark wood. One guard knocked while maintaining his grip on her arm. The sound echoed ominously in the quiet hallway. "Enter." Dante's voice carried through the wood, smooth and controlled in a way that made Zara's spine tingle with dread. The office matched its owner, powerful, elegant, and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago's glittering skyline. A massive desk dominated the space, its surface pristine except for a crystal decanter and 2 glasses. The walls held original artwork that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. The guards released her arms but remained stationed by the door. Zara rubbed her biceps where their fingers had dug in, refusing to show fear despite her racing pulse. She held her chin high, meeting Dante's dark gaze directly. He sat behind his desk, jacket removed and sleeves rolled up to reveal muscular forearms. A small cut marred his full bottom lip where her ring had caught him. The sight made her stomach clench, both with guilt and an unwanted flutter of attraction. "Leave us," Dante commanded without taking his eyes off Zara. The guards hesitated for a fraction of a second before complying, closing the doors behind them with a decisive click. Silence stretched between them, heavy with tension. Zara fought the urge to fidget under his intense scrutiny. His face revealed nothing, but his eyes. They burned with something dangerous and unreadable. "Do you know who I am?" he finally asked, his voice deceptively soft. "You're Dante Rossi," Zara answered, proud that her voice remained steady. "Owner of this club." His lips curved slightly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "That's not what I asked. Do you know who I am?" The emphasis made her swallow hard. Of course she knew. Everyone in Chicago knew the Rossi name and what it meant. Power, violence, control. "You're the head of the Rossi crime family," she said quietly. He leaned back in his chair, regarding her with calculated interest. "And yet you struck me, in my own establishment, in front of my people." Each statement fell like a hammer blow. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't make an example of you." The threat should have terrified her into silence. Instead, the crushing weight of her mother's illness, the mounting bills, and sheer exhaustion pushed words past her lips. "Because I've had the day from hell, and you were being an ass," she snapped. "I spent 12 hours watching people suffer and die at the hospital. I came here desperate for extra money because my mother's cancer treatments are bankrupting us. Then you humiliated that woman and turned your condescension on me over an accident. So yes, I slapped you. And while I probably shouldn't have, you deserved it." Her outburst left her breathing heavily, hands clenched at her sides. Dante's expression remained unnervingly neutral, but something flickered in his dark eyes. He rose slowly from his chair, his movements predatory. Zara forced herself to stand her ground as he circled the desk and approached her. He moved with lethal grace, like a panther stalking prey. When he stopped mere inches away, she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. This close, she could see the faint stubble along his jaw, smell his expensive cologne, and feel the dangerous energy radiating from him. His presence filled the space between them with crackling tension. "Most people would be begging for mercy right now," he observed, studying her face. "Yet here you stand, defiant as ever." "Begging wouldn't change anything," Zara replied. "And I won't apologize for standing up for myself." To her shock, a genuine smile tugged at his lips. "No, I don't imagine you would." He reached out, catching a loose curl that had escaped her ponytail. The casual touch sent electricity down her spine. You're either very brave or very foolish, Ms. Williams. How do you know my name? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I make it my business to know everything about everyone who works for me. His fingers released her hair, but his eyes held her captive. Including the fact that you're a nursing student at Chicago Memorial, that your mother has stage 3 breast cancer, and that you're 3 months behind on rent. The casual display of his reach and power made her breath catch. He could destroy her life with a word, or save it. What are you going to do with me? She asked. Dante stepped back, breaking the spell of his proximity. He returned to his desk and poured amber liquid into both crystal glasses. That depends entirely on you, he said, offering her one of the drinks. I find myself intrigued by a woman who would dare to strike me. Perhaps we can come to an arrangement that benefits us both. The leather chair beneath Zara felt like an electric chair as she waited for Dante's judgment. Her mind raced through contingency plans. Who would care for her mother if she disappeared tonight? Could she get a message to Keisha? The opulent office, with its dark wood paneling and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Chicago's glittering skyline, suddenly felt like a beautifully decorated cage. Dante hadn't spoken since the guards left. He simply watched her, his dark eyes dissecting every micro-expression that crossed her face. The cut on his lip had stopped bleeding, but the mark remained, a reminder of her impulsive action that now seemed monumentally stupid. Most people, he finally said, breaking the suffocating silence, spend considerable effort trying to avoid my attention. You managed to capture it spectacularly in your first week. His voice was smooth as aged whiskey, with just enough accent to betray his Italian heritage. He reached for a tablet on his desk, scrolling through what appeared to be a file. Zara Williams, 24 years old, third-year nursing student at Chicago Memorial with a 3.8 GPA. Works part-time in the pediatric ward. Mother diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 8 months ago. Father deceased, car accident when you were 16. He looked up. The funeral expenses were covered by Solomon Carter. Interesting connection. I slid down Zara's spine. How do you? Your background check was quite thorough when you applied here, Dante interrupted. Standard procedure, though I admit I had it deepened after tonight's incident. He set the tablet down and leaned forward, steepling his fingers. 3 months behind on rent, medical bills approaching 6 figures. Your mother's insurance denied coverage for the experimental treatment her oncologist recommended. You've applied for 12 different loans in the past month. All denied. Hearing her struggles laid out so clinically made Zara's cheeks burn with shame and anger. Is there a point to this inventory of my problems, Mr. Rossi? Or do you just enjoy twisting the knife before you have me disposed of? A flash of something, amusement, crossed his face. On the contrary, I'm presenting context for an opportunity. He rose from his chair with fluid grace, moving to a small bar cart in the corner. The soft clink of crystal accompanied his movements as he poured 2 drinks. I find myself in need of a personal assistant, he continued, returning to offer her one of the glasses. Someone intelligent, discreet, and capable of handling unique situations. The position is yours if you want it. Zara stared at the amber liquid, then at him. You want to hire the woman who slapped you? I want to hire the woman who had the courage to stand up to me, he corrected. Do you know how rare that is in my world, Ms. Williams? I'm surrounded by people who either fear me or want to use me. You did neither. You were authentic, spectacularly, foolishly authentic. He returned to his seat, taking a slow sip of his drink. The position is for 3 months. Salary would be sufficient to clear your debts and cover your mother's medical expenses, including that experimental treatment. And if I refuse? His expression hardened. Then I ensure you never work in Chicago again, not in healthcare, not in food service, nowhere. The threat was delivered with such casual certainty that Zara didn't doubt his ability to follow through. She took a steadying breath. Why 3 months? Consider it a probationary period for both of us. I have nursing classes, she said, clinical rotations. Arrangements can be made. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Your schedule will be adjusted to accommodate your new responsibilities. Zara's mind whirled with implications. I need time to think about this. You have until tomorrow night. Return here with your decision. He slid a business card across the desk. Though I suggest you consider carefully, opportunities like this don't come twice. The following evening, after a sleepless night and a long conversation with her mother, baby, sometimes God sends help in mysterious packages, Zara found herself back in Dante's office. The contract he presented was inches thick. Standard non-disclosure agreement, he explained as she flipped through pages of legal text, along with terms of employment and special considerations. Her signature felt like signing away her soul in triplicate. When she finished, Dante produced a black credit card that seemed to absorb light. "Be at this address tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. sharp," he said, sliding it across the desk along with another piece of paper. "Pack everything you need." Zara frowned at the address. It was in one of Chicago's most exclusive neighborhoods. "Everything I need for what?" "Everything you own," he clarified. "You won't be returning to your apartment." "What?" Zara's heart stumbled. "But my mother will be well cared for," Dante interrupted smoothly. "I've arranged for her to be transferred to a private medical facility tomorrow morning. Her new apartment in the same building will be ready by afternoon." The casual display of power, rearranging their lives with such ease, made Zara's head spin. She looked down at the black card in her trembling fingers, then back at the man who'd just bought her life with a 3-month contract. "What exactly have I gotten myself into, Mr. Rossi?" His dark eyes gleamed with something dangerous and magnetic. "Your life is about to change completely, Zara Williams." The morning sun glinted off Rossi Tower's glass facade like a warning beacon. Zara clutched her worn suitcase, craning her neck to take in all 90 stories of Chicago's most notorious building, a sleek haven of steel and glass that screamed old money and new danger. "Ms. Williams," a man's crisp voice cut through her daze. "I'm Marco, head of security." He stood ramrod straight in an impeccable black suit, his expression professionally blank. Without waiting for her response, he gestured toward the private entrance. "This way." The lobby's marble floors echoed their footsteps as Marco led her past the main security desk to a discreet elevator requiring both a keycard and fingerprint scan. "Your biometrics have already been added to the system." Of course they had. The elevator climbed smoothly to the 45th floor, opening directly into a hallway with only 2 doors. Marco used another keycard to unlock one of them. "Your new residence," he stated, stepping aside to let her enter. Zara's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a stunning view of Lake Michigan. The open-concept living space gleamed with hardwood floors and modern furniture that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. A chef's kitchen boasted marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. The bathroom featured a rainfall shower and soaking tub. The bedroom held a king-sized bed draped in luxurious linens. "This is excessive," she managed. "Mr. Rossi believes in providing appropriate accommodations." Marco's tone remained neutral. "The penthouse occupies the top 3 floors. You'll be expected there at 9 a.m. for orientation." When Zara started to protest that she hadn't agreed to move in, Marco smoothly produced her contract. He pointed to a clause she'd clearly missed in her desperate rush to sign. "Employee agrees to maintain residence at location designated by employer for duration of contract term to ensure 24/7 availability as needed." Her stomach dropped. "I need to make some calls, arrange things." "Your belongings are being packed and moved as we speak. Your mother's transfer to Chicago Memorial's private wing is already underway. Mr. Rossi handles details thoroughly." Marco checked his watch. "I'll return in 45 minutes to escort you upstairs." The penthouse office made her apartment look like a closet. Dante stood at the window wall, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed his domain. He turned when she entered, dark eyes assessing. "I trust the accommodations are satisfactory." It wasn't a question. "They're overwhelming," Zara said honestly. "Like everything about this situation." A slight smile touched his lips. "You'll adapt. Now let's discuss your duties." He outlined her role with military precision, managing his schedule, handling correspondence, attending meetings, coordinating with his various business interests. "You'll essentially be my shadow," he concluded, handing her a sleek phone. "This is your work device, GPS-enabled, naturally. Keep it with you at all times." "Naturally," she echoed faintly. The morning brought a parade of introductions. Marco, she knew. Vincenzo, Dante's consigliere, was an older, Italian man who regarded her with barely concealed disdain. Elena, Dante's cousin who handled legitimate business operations, offered a genuine smile that made Zara feel marginally better. As the day progressed, the gilded nature of her cage became clear. Security cameras monitored every hallway. The elevator required special access. Guards stationed throughout the building tracked her movements with careful eyes. When she tried calling Keisha during a brief break, Dante materialized beside her desk and smoothly ended the call. "Personal communications will be monitored," he stated, "for security purposes." Translation: no private conversations about her new situation. That evening, Zara explored her new home more thoroughly. The closet held a shock, racks of designer clothes in her size, tags still attached. The numbers made her dizzy. Even the casual wear probably cost more than her tuition. She stepped onto her private balcony, watching night claim the city. Her fingers trembled slightly as she dialed her mother's number on the new phone, hyper-aware that someone was likely listening to every word. "Baby, are you okay?" Her mother's voice was clearer than usual. The private hospital must have better reception. "I'm fine, Mom. The new job is intense, but the benefits are worth it." She forced lightness into her tone. "How's the new place?" "Beautiful. The doctors here are so attentive. Are you sure you're all right?" "Just adjusting," Zara assured her, throat tight. "Everything will be fine." Above her balcony, shrouded in shadows, Dante stood at his own railing. The ice in his whiskey glass clinked softly as he observed his newest acquisition. His expression remained unreadable as he took another sip, dark eyes fixed on the woman who'd had the audacity to challenge him, now residing in the cage he'd gilded specifically for her. 3 days of learning Dante's routines had barely prepared Zara for the complexity of managing his schedule. She sat cross-legged on her apartment's plush couch, scrolling through endless calendar entries on her company tablet when her phone buzzed. The text message made her blood run cold. "Mrs. Williams experiencing severe complications. Emergency transport to County General initiated." Her hands shook as she grabbed her purse, heart thundering. The elevator ride to the lobby felt endless. When the doors opened, 2 suited security guards blocked her path. "I'm sorry, Miss Williams. You need authorization to leave the premises." "My mother's in the hospital," Zara's voice cracked. "This is an emergency." "Protocol is protocol. We need Mr. Rossi's approval." Zara frantically dialed Dante's number, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried his assistant line. Nothing. Watching the guard's shift change through tear-blurred eyes, she noticed a momentary gap in coverage. Without thinking, she bolted. She made it halfway down the block before strong arms seized her waist. Marco's familiar voice spoke quietly in her ear as he lifted her off her feet. "Bad decision, Miss Williams." The trip back up to Dante's penthouse office felt like a march to execution. He stood at his usual spot by the windows, but the usual calculated calm had been replaced by cold fury. "Your first test of loyalty," he said without turning, "and you failed spectacularly. My mother was transferred to Chicago Memorial's cardiac unit 2 hours ago." Now he faced her, dark eyes blazing. "The best specialists in the Midwest are handling her case. Did you really think I wouldn't be monitoring her condition?" He moved to his desk, tapping his tablet. Photos appeared on the wall screen, her mother at physical therapy, Keisha leaving her apartment, professors on campus. "Your entire world is under my surveillance, Zara. Every person you care about, every place you go." His voice softened dangerously. "You belong to me now. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." The room started spinning, Zara's chest constricted as panic clawed up her throat. Her vision tunneled, breaths coming in sharp gasps. Through the roaring in her ears, she heard Dante's voice change. "Sit down," he ordered, guiding her to a chair. "Head between your knees. Breathe with me. In for 4 counts, hold for 7, out for 8. His hand rested warm between her shoulder blades as he counted steadily. The familiar pattern slowly brought her back to herself. "How did you know?" she managed. "I had them frequently after my mother died." The admission hung in the air between them, startlingly personal. Before she could process it, his walls slammed back into place. "Marco will escort you to the hospital," he stated, businesslike once more. 2 hours maximum. The private room at Chicago Memorial took Zara's breath away. State-of-the-art equipment, a dedicated nurse, even a small seating area with a daybed. Her mother looked better than she had in months. "Baby, don't worry," her mother said, patting her hand. "These doctors are amazing. Mr. Rossi's people arranged everything." Marco maintained a discreet distance as Zara spent her allotted time with her mother. The drive back to Rossi Tower passed in contemplative silence. To her surprise, Dante was waiting in her apartment, dinner laid out on her rarely used dining table. "Sit," he instructed. "You need to eat." Over perfectly prepared salmon, he explained the reality of her situation. "My business activities make anyone close to me a potential target. The security measures protect you as much as they protect my interests." "You could have just told me that," Zara pointed out. "Would you have believed the notorious Dante Rossi was concerned for your safety?" She had to admit he had a point. The conversation shifted to her nursing studies, his surprising knowledge of medical terminology making the discussion almost normal. For the first time, she glimpsed the educated, intelligent man beneath the crime boss exterior. Walking her back from his penthouse after dinner, their fingers brushed accidentally in the elevator. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her system. Dante's sharp intake of breath suggested he felt it too, but his expression revealed nothing. At her door, his mask of authority returned fully. "Your mother will receive the best care possible as long as you follow the rules. Don't make me regret my leniency today." The elevator doors closed between them, leaving Zara staring at her reflection in the polished metal. The woman who looked back seemed different somehow. Still afraid, yes, but also intrigued by the complexities she'd witnessed in the man who held her captive. That realization was perhaps the most frightening thing of all. 2 weeks had transformed Zara's life into a carefully orchestrated routine. Each morning, she reviewed Dante's schedule from her tablet, cross-referencing meetings and ensuring every minute was optimized. Her designer wardrobe, once foreign and uncomfortable, now felt like armor as she shadowed him through his empire. Today started typically enough. Breakfast delivered precisely at 6:30 a.m., security briefing with Marco at 7, then accompanying Dante to his morning meetings. But shortly before noon, he deviated from routine. "I need you to organize some files while I handle a private matter," Dante said, gesturing to the tall filing cabinets lining his office wall. "Everything needs to be chronological. Don't leave until it's finished." Zara nodded, watching him exit with Marco and 2 other guards. She'd learned not to question his instructions, no matter how mundane they seemed. 3 hours into the mind-numbing task, her elbow caught a thick manila folder perched on the desk's edge. Papers exploded across the polished floor, scattering like autumn leaves. Sighing, she knelt to gather them. The first photo made her freeze. Angelo Cardano, she recognized him from news coverage, exiting what appeared to be a restaurant. More surveillance photos followed, his home, his security detail, his family members. Then came the documents. Detailed schedules, security rotations, building layouts marked with entry points and escape routes. Her hands trembled as she found the timeline, dated for next month. The clinical language couldn't disguise the horror of what she was reading. This wasn't just an assassination. It was a massacre, in planning. Every member of Cardano's inner circle had been marked for elimination. The office door's soft click might as well have been a gunshot. Zara's head snapped up to find Dante watching her, his expression shifting from neutral to thunderous as he registered the papers in her hands. The lock engaged with a quiet snick that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. He moved toward her with lethal grace. "What exactly did you see?" I was just organizing like you asked," Zara stammered, papers slipping from her nerveless fingers. "The folder fell." His hand shot out, fingers encircling her wrist in an iron grip. The remaining documents scattered across the floor. "Lying to me is a dangerous game, Kara." His voice was soft, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. Zara lifted her chin, fear warring with indignation. "Fine. I saw everything. The surveillance, the security details, the timeline." She gestured at the damning evidence around them. "All these people are criminals who wouldn't hesitate to do the same to me," Dante cut in. "The Cardanos killed my uncle execution style in front of his children. They've tried to assassinate me twice." His grip tightened fractionally. "In my world, you eliminate threats before they eliminate you." "There has to be another way," Zara protested. "This level of violence—" "Why do you care?" Dante interrupted, studying her face with dangerous curiosity. "These aren't innocent civilians, Zara. They're killers, extortionists, traffickers. Why does their fate concern you?" Before she could answer, the office door burst open. Elena rushed in, her usually polished appearance slightly disheveled. "We have a problem. Tommy Malone's been talking to the feds." Dante's expression hardened further. "Marco," he called, and his head of security materialized in the doorway. "Handle it." The 2 words carried clear meaning. After Elena and Marco departed, Dante turned back to Zara. His thumb traced small circles on her inner wrist, the gentle motion at odds with his iron grip. "Your role has just expanded. You've seen too much to remain merely an assistant." His dark eyes held hers captive. "From now on, you'll be by my side for everything." The weight of those words settled over her like a shroud. She understood the implicit threat and protection they carried. To her confusion, the prospect sent an illicit thrill through her alongside the fear. Hours later, Zara lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those surveillance photos, imagined the violence they preceded. Her phone chirped, screen illuminating the darkness. "Dante, pack for a week. We leave for New York tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. She knew what this meant. He was keeping her close, ensuring she couldn't share what she'd learned. The smart move would be to feel nothing but dread. Instead, her heart raced at the prospect of spending a week in closer proximity to him. Despite everything she'd discovered, or perhaps because of it, she couldn't deny the dangerous attraction building between them. Each shared meal, each brush of contact, each loaded glance added another layer to their complex dynamic. Her moral compass spun wildly, trying to reconcile the man who ordered deaths so casually with the one who remembered how she took her coffee and ensured her mother had the best medical care. The one whose touch, even in anger, sent electricity through her veins. She got up to pack, her reflection in the window glass showing a woman she barely recognized anymore. 2 weeks in Dante's world had already changed her. She wondered what a week in New York would do. The sleek private jet gleamed in the early morning sun as Zara climbed the stairs, her heels clicking against each step. Inside, the cabin's luxury made her previous commercial flights seem like bus rides. Cream leather seats, polished wood tables, and what looked like actual crystal glasses awaiting champagne. Dante stood as she entered, gesturing to the seat beside him. "Your first time on a private jet." His lips curved slightly at her obvious awe. "That obvious?" Zara settled into the butter-soft leather, acutely aware of how close they sat. In the intimate confines of the cabin, maintaining professional distance felt like trying to ignore a magnetic pull. As they reached cruising altitude, Dante pulled out a tablet. "We need to discuss the next few days." His shoulder brushed hers as he swiped through documents. "First, the Moretti family dinner tonight. Alessandro Moretti controls most of New York's ports. His cooperation is crucial for our expansion plans." Zara tried to focus on the family photos and dossiers he showed her, but his cologne, spicy and expensive, kept distracting her. "What exactly am I supposed to do?" "Observe, listen, stay close to me." His dark eyes held hers. "You'll be introduced as my personal assistant, but they'll assume you're more. Let them." Heat crept up her neck. "What do you mean, more?" His smirk suggested everything she'd been trying not to think about. "In our world, powerful men don't keep beautiful women close unless there's a reason." His fingers brushed her knee as he reached for his whiskey glass. "The assumption works in our favor." The rest of the flight passed in a detailed briefing about New York's criminal hierarchy, legitimate business ventures, and the complex web of alliances Dante navigated. Zara absorbed it all, asking questions that seemed to please him with their insight. Their hotel suite occupied half the top floor of a 5-star property overlooking Central Park. Zara's room was bigger than her entire apartment, with the door connecting it to Dante's even larger space. The implications of that adjoining door made her pulse quicken. "We leave for the Moretti compound at 7, Dante said, loosening his tie. "Wear the black dress in your closet." The dress in question was a masterpiece of subtle seduction, expensive black silk that skimmed her curves without being obvious about it. When she emerged from her room, Dante's gaze traveled slowly from her stilettos to her carefully styled hair. His approval felt like a physical touch. The Moretti compound sprawled across several acres in an exclusive suburb. Security rivaled the White House, with armed guards and scanning equipment that would impress the TSA. Inside, old money wealth dripped from every surface. Priceless art, antique furniture, generations of power concentrated under one roof. Zara watched Dante transform as they entered the formal dining room. His usual controlled presence, amplified into something magnetic. Every head turned, conversations paused, power recognizing power. She felt the change like electricity on her skin. Alessandro Moretti, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, rose to greet them. His daughter Gianna, all Milan fashion and practiced charm, immediately gravitated to Dante. Her perfectly manicured hand lingered on his arm as she kissed his cheeks in greeting. Something hot and unwelcome flared in Zara's chest. She recognized Gianna's type. Raised in this world, groomed to be a Mafia princess. Everything Zara wasn't. Throughout dinner, she observed the dance of power and politics happening between courses. Dante commanded attention without raising his voice. his influence evident in how others deferred to him. Even Alessandro, clearly the patriarch, treated him as an equal. After dinner, Alessandro drew Dante aside, speaking in rapid Italian. Zara caught her name and watched Dante's expression tighten almost imperceptibly. In the car back to the hotel, she finally asked, "What did he say about me?" Dante stared out the window for a long moment. "He warned me that bringing someone I care about into this world makes me vulnerable." "I'm just an employee," Zara protested weakly. His knowing look stripped away her pretense. "Are you?" Back in the suite, Dante poured them both whiskey. He shed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and began explaining more about his business empire. Legitimate ventures in real estate and technology balanced against the underground networks that had built his power. "Why nursing?" he asked suddenly, switching topics. "You could do anything. Why choose that?" Zara's passion spilled out as she explained her drive to help others, to make a difference in people's lives. Dante listened with unexpected intensity, as if trying to understand something fundamental about her. The whiskey and late hour lowered their guards. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. When Zara finally stood to retire, she paused at her door. "Why me, really? Out of all the women you could have chosen?" Dante moved toward her with predatory grace. His fingers traced her cheekbone, leaving fire in their wake. "Because you saw me as a man, not a monster or a meal ticket. You weren't afraid to show me who you really are." His lips hovered near hers, their breath mingling. At the last moment, he pulled back. "Good night, Zara. Tomorrow will be interesting." She slipped into her room, heart thundering. Whatever line they'd been walking had just blurred beyond recognition. Morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows of Rossi Industries' Manhattan headquarters. Zara sat beside Dante in the executive boardroom, taking notes as he led negotiations for a tech company acquisition. She found herself mesmerized by this side of him, sharp, strategic, and legitimately brilliant. "The valuation needs to account for projected market expansion in Asia," Dante said, dismantling the opposition's arguments with precise logic. His command of complex business principles surprised her. This wasn't just a criminal playing at legitimate business. He genuinely understood the intricacies. After the meeting, their town car glided to a stop on Fifth Avenue. "You need proper attire for tonight's gala," Dante announced, leading her into an exclusive boutique where staff immediately snapped to attention. "I can't afford anything here," Zara whispered, eyeing a dress price tag that exceeded her former monthly rent. Dante's hand settled on her lower back, guiding her forward. "You represent me now. Your appearance reflects on my position." His tone brooked no argument. The next hours passed in a blur of luxury. Dante sat in a plush chair, drinking espresso, while Zara emerged in dress after dress. His dark gaze tracked every movement, every curve. When she appeared in a deep burgundy gown that seemed made for her body, his sharp inhale told her this was the one. "The necklace, too," he instructed the hovering saleswoman, indicating a diamond piece that probably cost more than her student loans. Dante stood, taking the necklace himself. His fingers brushed her neck as he fastened it, lingering longer than necessary. In the mirror, they made a striking pair, his dangerous elegance complementing her softer beauty. That evening, the gala buzzed with New York's elite. Zara felt eyes following her as Dante led her through the crowd. His hand remained possessively at her waist, thumb stroking small circles through the silk of her dress. "Who's your enchanting companion, Rossi?" Julian Vega approached, his appreciative gaze sliding over Zara. Despite his polished appearance, something predatory lurked beneath his charm. "Zara Williams, my personal assistant." Dante's introduction carried weight beyond the simple title. "Surely you'll allow me one dance?" Julian extended his hand to Zara. Dante's fingers tightened on her waist. "You're playing with fire, Julian!" His voice carried deadly warning. "She's mine." The possessive claim sent heat coursing through Zara's veins. She found herself leaning into Dante's touch, silently reinforcing his statement. Later, returning from the ladies' room, Julian intercepted her in a quiet hallway. "You could do better than Rossi," he murmured, stepping too close. "I could offer you so much more." Before Zara could respond, Julian was slammed against the wall. Dante's forearm pressed against his throat, expression promising violence. "Touch what belongs to me again, and they'll find pieces of you scattered across the Hudson." The savage display should have horrified her. Instead, dark excitement curled in her stomach at his ferocious protection. Back in their suite, the tension finally snapped. "I don't belong to you," Zara challenged, pulse racing. "You can't just mark your territory like that." "No?" Dante stalked toward her, dangerous grace in every movement. "You've been mine since you dared to strike me that first night." "I'm not one of your possessions," she insisted, even as her body swayed toward him. "No, you're far more dangerous." His hand cupped her face. "You make me want things I can't afford to want." The first brush of his lips against hers unleashed weeks of denied attraction. Zara melted into him as the kiss deepened, became consuming. Dante backed her against the wall, lifting her easily. His controlled facade cracked as she wrapped her legs around his waist. "Sei bellissima," he murmured, trailing kisses down her throat. "Ho bisogno di te." They lost themselves in each other, hands exploring, breath mingling. Dante worshipped her body with the same intensity he commanded his empire. Each touch, each kiss expressed months of restraint finally breaking. Hours later, Zara watched city lights shimmer through floor-to-ceiling windows. Dante's fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder as they lay tangled in silk sheets. The dangerous Mafia boss seemed softer in the aftermath, almost vulnerable. "This complicates things," he murmured against her hair. His phone's sharp ring shattered the moment. Dante's expression instantly hardened as he answered, "Speak!" The tenderness vanished, replaced by the calculating crime lord. Zara watched the transformation, wondering if she'd witnessed the real man or merely what he chose to reveal. 3 days after the gala, Chicago's familiar skyline welcomed them home. The dynamic between Dante and Zara had shifted irrevocably during their time in New York. By day, they maintained a careful professional distance, Zara taking notes in meetings, Dante issuing commands with his usual authority. But their nights told a different story, filled with passionate encounters that left them both breathless and craving more. Elena's knowing smirks and Marco's raised eyebrows made it clear their pretense fooled no one in Dante's inner circle. Yet something felt off about their return. The tower's security presence had doubled, with armed men patrolling corridors that were usually quiet. Zara noticed the tension during her morning coffee run to the building's cafe. Normally, chatty guards stood alert, hands hovering near concealed weapons. When she approached Marco about it, his typically stoic expression tightened further. "The Cardanos caught wind of our plans," he admitted reluctantly. "There are rumors they're planning retaliation." That evening, over dinner in Dante's penthouse, Zara picked at her pasta while watching him review documents. "Marco told me about the Cardanos," she ventured. Dante's jaw clenched. "This is why civilians shouldn't know about business matters. Everything is under control." The next morning dawned gray and cold. Zara accompanied Dante to a meeting at Salvatore's, one of his restaurants across town. The drive was tense, with Marco coordinating multiple security vehicles via radio. They were halfway back to the tower when hell broke loose. 3 black SUVs appeared from side streets, boxing in their vehicle with military precision. The first spray of bullets shattered their bulletproof windows into a spiderweb pattern. Zara's scream caught in her throat as Dante pushed her down, shielding her with his body. His transformation was immediate and terrifying. Gone was the sophisticated businessman. In his place, a lethal predator emerged. 2 masked gunmen approached their car. Dante's movements were precise as he shot through the cracked window, dropping them both. "Stay low," he ordered Zara, his voice ice cold. Their driver was already dead, slumped over the wheel. Marco's voice crackled through the radio, reporting his team was pinned down behind them. "Exit through the passenger side on my mark," Dante instructed, checking his weapon. The next minutes passed in a blur of gunfire and shattering glass. Somehow they made it out of the car, running through a maze of warehouses as bullets sparked off brick walls around them. Zara's legs burned, her designer heels completely unsuited for their desperate flight. She never saw the shooter who targeted her. But Dante did. He spun, shoving her aside as the bullet meant for her heart buried itself in his shoulder instead. Despite the injury, he managed to eliminate their pursuer and get them to a nondescript door hidden between loading docks. The safe house was sparse. One room with minimal furniture and emergency supplies. As soon as the door locked behind them, Zara's nursing training took over. She found a first aid kit and ordered Dante to remove his bloody shirt. "You're not what I expected, Zara Williams," he murmured, watching her clean and dress his wound with steady hands. As night fell, his temperature rose. The combination of blood loss and fever stripped away his usual barriers. Zara bathed his forehead with a cool cloth, listening as he spoke of things he'd never shared before. "My mother was like you," he said, dark eyes fever bright. "Imani. She grew up in your neighborhood. Met my father at a fundraiser where she was waitressing, just like you and me." He described their unlikely love story, the beautiful black woman from Chicago's South Side who captured a Mafia don's heart. She taught me compassion, Dante murmured. Said it wasn't weakness to care. But rivals had seen it differently. They killed Imani when Dante was 10, leaving him with a father who never fully accepted his mixed-race son. Had to be twice as brutal, twice as ruthless to prove myself, he admitted. Couldn't show any softness after she died. Dawn painted the room's dingy walls with pale light as Dante finally drifted to sleep, his hand gripping Zara's even in unconsciousness. She studied his face, seeing clearly for the first time both the wounded boy who lost his mother and the dangerous man that loss created. When Marco arrived with reinforcements, he seemed shocked to find Dante not just alive, but properly treated. You did this? He asked Zara, examining her careful bandaging. She nodded, suddenly exhausted as adrenaline faded. But even as fatigue set in, something else crystallized with alarming clarity. Her feelings for Dante had evolved far beyond physical attraction or even the strange intimacy of their arrangement. Watching him sleep, vulnerable in a way he'd never allowed before, she recognized the dangerous truth. She was falling in love with both the monster and the man. The morning sun streamed through the penthouse windows as Zara sat beside Dante, watching security footage for what felt like the 100th time. Her fingers traced the outline of his shoulder where the bullet wound was healing, a constant reminder of how close she'd come to losing him. Play it again, Dante instructed Marco, his eyes fixed on the tactical formation of the attacking vehicles. Their coordination was too precise for amateur players. Zara leaned forward, noting details she'd missed before through the haze of terror. The way they boxed us in, it's like they knew exactly where we'd be. Dante nodded, his hand finding hers beneath the conference table. This was new, his willingness to show affection in front of his inner circle. The attack had shifted something between them, creating a partnership that transcended their physical connection. Vincenzo paced behind them, agitation evident in every movement. We can't let this stand, boss. The Cardanos need to learn what happens when they move against us. And if we're wrong? Zara spoke up, earning a sharp look from the consigliere. This doesn't feel like Angelo's style, from what I understand of his operations. With respect, Vincenzo's tone suggested anything but civilian perspectives on our business bite. Let her speak. Dante's quiet command silenced the room. Go on, Cara. Zara took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. From the files I've reviewed, Angelo Cardano is methodical, he plans long-term, prefers precision over spectacle. This attack was messy, public, designed to provoke an immediate response. Elena, sitting across the table, nodded slowly. She has a point. Uncle Angelo would never risk civilian casualties so openly. It would draw too much police attention. Further investigation over the next few days proved Zara right. The Vasquez cartel had orchestrated the hit, hoping to eliminate Dante and trigger a war between Chicago's two most powerful families. Their manipulation would have succeeded if not for Zara's outsider perspective. You've earned their respect, Dante told her later as they reviewed proposals in his office. Even Vincenzo admitted you saved us from a costly mistake. Zara smiled, studying the healthcare investment portfolio she'd helped develop. Speaking of costly ventures, have you considered the oncology center proposal? Dante set aside his laptop, giving her his full attention. Another change since the attack. The profit margins are lower than our usual projects, but the community impact would be significant. Plus, having a legitimate foothold in healthcare could open other opportunities. Their discussion was interrupted by a soft knock. Marco entered with his daughter Sophia, the 6-year-old pale but smiling bravely through her leukemia treatment. Zara immediately moved to greet her, switching effortlessly into nurse mode. She'd been helping monitor Sophia's care, earning fierce loyalty from Marco and other lieutenants who saw her genuine concern for their families. Ready for another story? Zara asked, pulling a book from her desk drawer. Sophia nodded eagerly, climbing into her lap. Dante watched them with an expression that made Zara's heart flutter. Later that afternoon, he surprised her by suggesting they visit her mother. At the private hospital, Zara marveled at her mother's improvement. The specialized care Dante had arranged was working miracles. She hung back, watching as Dante engaged her mother in conversation about her treatment, his genuine interest evident. He's not what I expected, her mother confided when Dante stepped out to take a call. The way he looks at you, baby. That man would move heaven and earth to make you happy. That evening, as they lay tangled in his silk sheets, Dante traced patterns on her bare shoulder. I've never brought anyone to meet family before, he admitted quietly. Not even business associates. Zara propped herself up on an elbow, studying his face in the dim light. Why me? You're changing me, Zara. I'm still deciding if that's dangerous or necessary. His kiss was tender, a stark contrast to his usual intensity. Later, while Dante showered, Zara reviewed files from his briefcase, a level of trust that still amazed her. She froze when a familiar name caught her eye in the Cardano family documents. Solomon Carter. The photo confirmed what her racing heart already knew. This was the same man who'd appeared at her father's funeral years ago, providing money when they couldn't afford a proper burial. She'd never known his real identity or connection to her family. Steam billowed from the bathroom as Dante's shower continued. Zara carefully returned the file, her mind spinning with questions. Solomon Carter, Angelo Cardano's right-hand man, had helped her family in their darkest hour. What did that mean for her position now? Caught between two powerful families with a decades-old blood feud? Through the bathroom door, she heard Dante humming softly, a rare moment of unguarded contentment. The sound made her chest ache as she contemplated the weight of her discovery. 3 days of carrying Solomon's secret felt like dragging an anchor through Dante's tower. Zara's stomach churned as she rode the elevator down to the parking garage where Marco waited to drive her to visit her mother. The weight of unspoken truths pressed against her chest with each floor she descended. Her mother's private room at Chicago Memorial gleamed with afternoon sunlight. The machines that had once terrified Zara now beeped steadily, marking her mother's improvement. They chatted about normal things, her mother's treatment progress, hospital food complaints, the latest family gossip, before Zara carefully steered the conversation where she needed it to go. Mom, do you remember Solomon Carter, the man who helped us after Dad died? Her mother's hands stilled in their nervous smoothing of the blanket. Of course. How could I forget? We wouldn't have been able to give your father a proper burial without his help. You never really told me how you knew him. He and your father grew up together on 63rd Street, her mother explained, eyes distant with memory. They were inseparable as boys. Solomon was always at our house for dinner, your grandmother treating him like another son. She sighed. But people's paths diverge. Your father chose honest work at the factory. Solomon made different choices. Did Dad know about Solomon's connections? He knew enough to keep his distance, but that childhood bond, it meant something to Solomon. The day after your father died, he appeared at our door with an envelope full of cash and said, "Let me do this one thing for my brother." Her mother's eyes grew wet. He made sure we didn't lose everything while grieving. Zara absorbed this information, her conflict deepening. The man Dante planned to kill wasn't just a name in a file. He was woven into the fabric of her family's history. Back at the tower, she found Dante in the conference room with his inner circle. Maps and surveillance photos covered the table, the Cardano compound, security rotations, escape routes. Her stomach dropped as she recognized Solomon's face among the target photos. Angelo's making his move, Dante was saying. Intelligence confirms he's negotiating with the Mexicans for distribution rights in our territory. We need to act first. Vincenzo outlined the precision strike. Simultaneous hits on multiple locations, eliminating the entire Cardano leadership structure in one night. No survivors, no loose ends. That evening, the charity gala sparkled with Chicago's wealth and power. Zara's emerald silk gown drew admiring glances, but she felt the judgment beneath their smiles. A socialite's voice carried deliberately. Really, a nurse from the South Side. Dante Rossi must be going through some kind of phase. Dante's hand tightened possessively on her waist. He'd been proudly introducing her as the woman who saved my life, a reference to her care after the ambush that carried more weight than the society crowd realized. During a brief moment alone, Vincenzo cornered her by the champagne table. He's different with you, the consigliere said, swirling his drink. More cautious, more concerned with consequences. Some of our associates worry he's losing his edge. You mean he's becoming more human? Zara challenged. Vincenzo's smile didn't reach his eyes. In our world, humanity is a luxury we can't always afford. Later that night, Dante led her to the IG, hospital's administrative wing. I have something to show you. He unveiled architectural renderings, plans for expanding and modernizing the facility. I bought it last week. We're converting it to a nonprofit, focusing on serving underinsured patients from the South Side. Zara's heart swelled even as guilt gnawed at her. This man who could order deaths without blinking was also capable of profound generosity, all to make her happy. In bed, Dante's lovemaking was particularly tender as if he sensed her internal turmoil. His kisses traced patterns of devotion across her skin, while his whispered Italian endearments wrapped around her like silk bonds. But even as pleasure coursed through her body, images of Solomon at her father's funeral haunted her thoughts. After Dante drifted to sleep, his arm draped possessively across her waist, Zara carefully extracted herself. She stepped onto the balcony, the night air cooling her flushed skin. The burner phone felt heavy in her palm, a small black device purchased days ago during a carefully orchestrated moment away from surveillance. Her fingers trembled as she typed the message to Solomon's number. Need to meet. Information about Rossi's plans. Life or death. The text disappeared into the digital ether the moment she hit send, followed quickly by its deletion. Sliding back between Dante's sheets, Zara pressed herself against his warmth. His arm automatically tightened around her, drawing her closer in unconscious possession. Her heart thundered so loudly she feared it would wake him, but his breathing remained deep and even. She'd crossed a line, committed her first true betrayal against the man who'd given her everything she'd ever wanted. Yet as Dante's steady heartbeat pulsed against her back, Zara couldn't silence the voice insisting she'd done the right thing. The difficult thing, the dangerous thing, but the right thing. The burner phone vibrated at dawn, jolting Zara from restless sleep. The message was brief but clear. Arlington Cemetery, Section 12, noon today. Her heart raced as she dressed in casual clothes, jeans and a sweater that wouldn't draw attention. Over breakfast in his penthouse, Zara carefully mentioned her plans to Dante. I need to visit Mom, then handle some paperwork for my nursing program registration, she said, stirring her coffee. Just a few hours? Dante studied her over the rim of his espresso cup. Take Marco's team with you. Please, I need some normal time. Just me, running errands like a regular person. She touched his hand, hating how the gesture now felt calculated. The security team can follow at a distance if you insist. He relented with a slight nod, his trust in her making her guilt spike sharply. Arlington Cemetery sprawled before her at noon, autumn leaves scattered across manicured grounds. She found Section 12 easily, her steps crunching on fallen foliage. Solomon Carter stood beside an ornate headstone, his bearing dignified despite his age. His kind eyes and gentle demeanor seemed at odds with his reputation as Angelo Cardano's ruthless enforcer. Miss Williams, he greeted her, voice warm with recognition. You look so much like your father. You remember him? Hard to forget your best friend from grade school, even after 40 years. Solomon's smile held sadness. Now, tell me why Dante Rossi's woman is taking such a risk to meet me. Zara explained everything. Her relationship with Dante, the accelerated timeline for the hit, her desperate need to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Solomon listened intently, his expression growing grave. Why should I trust this isn't a trap? He asked finally. Because you helped my family when no one else would. Zara's voice cracked. After Dad died, that envelope of cash, it saved us from losing everything. You honored your childhood friendship even after your paths diverged. Solomon's posture softened. Your father was a good man. Chose the honest path while I... He gestured vaguely. Well, we all make our choices. He explained how the feud began. Angelo Cardano and Antonio Rossi, once closer than brothers, torn apart by a betrayal involving Dante's mother Imani. There were misunderstandings, things said that couldn't be unsaid. Then retribution bred retribution, until the original wounds were buried under decades of fresh ones. But it could end, Zara pressed, if both sides agreed to talk. Angelo would consider peace, Solomon confirmed. He's tired of watching good soldiers die for old men's mistakes. But approaching him requires delicacy. One wrong move. I can convince Dante to listen. He's different with me, more open to change. Be careful, child. Men like Dante Rossi don't change easily, and attempting to force it could be dangerous. Neither noticed Marco's distant figure, his camera capturing their meeting with clinical precision. When Zara returned to the tower that evening, her apartment was dark, except for a single lamp. Dante sat in the shadows, manila envelope in his lap. Her stomach dropped as he spread photographs across the coffee table. Her and Solomon caught in intimate conversation. Imagine my surprise, Dante said, voice terrifyingly calm, when my most trusted security chief showed me these. His eyes were obsidian cold. Was anything real, Zara, or was seducing me part of your mission from the start? It's not what you think. No? He stood, towering over her. Because it looks like my woman. The one person I actually trusted, meeting secretly with my enemy's right hand. Solomon helped my family after my father died. He grew up with him. Stop lying! Dante's fist slammed the wall beside her head. You played me perfectly, didn't you? The innocent nurse with a heart of gold. I actually thought, he laughed bitterly. I've moved your family to a secure compound, for their protection, of course. Their comfort depends entirely on your cooperation moving forward. Horror dawned. You're holding them hostage? Insurance against further betrayal. His smile was cruel. You still don't understand my world. Peace is a luxury for those who've proven their dominance. The violence isn't necessary. Thanks to your betrayal, it's absolutely necessary. The Cardano operation happens tomorrow night. Their deaths are on your hands now. He left her under armed guard, her phones confiscated, her apartment now truly a prison. Zara paced frantically, mind racing for solutions. When Elena slipped in an hour later, she nearly cried with relief. He's been different since you, Dante's cousin said, pressing a phone and access card into her palm. Better, don't give up on him yet. Hands trembling, Zara called Solomon's number. His grave voice confirmed her worst fears. We've been watching you too, he said. Come to the address I'm sending. You're our only leverage now. Staring at the text message, Zara knew she had no choice. Using Elena's access card, she slipped through the tower's security. Her heart pounded with each step, knowing she was gambling everything, her life, her family's safety, any future with Dante, on this desperate plan. Dante stormed into his penthouse, yanking off his tie as he headed straight for the bar. His hands trembled slightly as he poured a generous measure of whiskey, betraying the turbulent emotions beneath his controlled exterior. The amber liquid barely touched his lips before he hurled the crystal glass against the wall with explosive force. Careful, cousin. That was Waterford crystal. Elena stood in the doorway, concern evident in her dark eyes. She'd never seen him this unraveled, not even during the bloodiest territory wars. Get out, Dante growled, already reaching for another glass. Not until we discuss what you're planning. Elena moved further into the room, unfazed by his dangerous mood. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. The Cardanos need to be eliminated. Zara's betrayal just accelerated the timeline. Is it betrayal, though? Elena challenged. Or did she see a chance to prevent unnecessary bloodshed and take it? She went behind my back! The second glass followed the first, shattering against the wall. I gave her everything, access, trust, protection, and she conspired with my enemies. She tried to broker peace, not sell your secrets. There's a difference. Not in our world. Dante's voice was ice. You know the rules. Betrayal equals death. Unless the betrayal comes from someone you love. The word hung heavy in the air between them. Dante's jaw clenched. Love is a liability I can't afford. Yet you've changed since she came into your life. You're considering options beyond violence, looking toward legitimate business ventures. That's her influence. And look where that weakness led. My enemies think they can use her to manipulate me. Elena stepped closer, forcing him to meet her gaze. At least hear her explanation before you proceed. You owe her that much. I owe her nothing. But his voice lacked conviction. The operation proceeds as planned. When Elena finally left, Dante called Marco. Double the security on her apartment. No one in or out without my direct approval. Across town, Zara's heart pounded as she approached the abandoned warehouse. Solomon waited outside with several armed men she didn't recognize. Their hard expressions made her stomach drop. This wasn't a peace negotiation. I'm sorry, girl, Solomon said quietly as his men surrounded her. This isn't what I wanted. They led her inside where Angelo Cardano himself waited, distinguished and deadly in his tailored suit. Miss Williams, your attempt to contact Solomon provided an opportunity we couldn't ignore. They took her phone, quickly filming a short video of her tied to a chair. Zara's voice remained steady, despite her fear. Don't give them what they want, Dante. Brave girl, Angelo mused. I see why he's so taken with you. He turned to his men. Send it with our demands. Let's see how the great Dante Rossi handles matters of the heart. Back at the tower, Dante was meeting with his captains when the video arrived. His expression remained impassive as he watched Zara on screen. But Marco noticed the subtle tremor in his hand. We proceed as planned, Vincenzo declared. The girl is a liability anyway. This proves it. Dante's head snapped up, his gaze lethal. Choose your next words very carefully. In the ensuing silence, Marco approached with his tablet. Boss, you should hear this. He played enhanced audio from Zara's cemetery meeting. Her passionate plea for peace, her genuine connection to Solomon through her father, her desire to prevent deaths on both sides. Something shifted in Dante's eyes as the truth of her motives became clear. Before he could process this revelation, his phone rang. Angelo Cardano's number. The Cardanos clearly expected to negotiate with Dante's representatives. Angelo's surprise was audible when Dante himself answered. "You've taken what's mine!" Dante's voice was terrifyingly calm. "There is nowhere on earth you can hide now." He ended the call and immediately began issuing orders for an immediate assault. His men exchanged worried glances. "It's obviously a trap," Vincenzo protested. "Obviously." "You'd risk everything for a woman?" Dante turned slowly, his expression making even his oldest associates step back. "She's not just any woman, she's mine." As night fell, Dante briefed his strike team with lethal precision. The cold focus in his eyes was something new. Beyond anger, beyond vengeance. In the warehouse, Zara worked at her restraints while listening to the Cardanos' increasingly nervous preparations. They hadn't expected Dante's immediate, overwhelming response. "Move her to the secondary location," Angelo ordered Solomon. "I won't risk her presence during the confrontation." As Solomon led her toward a waiting car, he spoke quietly. "I never wanted this war, girl. But Dante Rossi isn't a man who shares what he loves." The word "loves" barely registered before distant gunfire shattered the night. Dante had arrived. The warehouse erupted in chaos as multiple explosions rocked the complex. Inside the car, Zara felt the vibrations through the leather seat as Solomon gripped the steering wheel, his experienced eyes scanning their surroundings. Gunfire echoed, getting closer with each passing second. Solomon's face showed internal struggle before he made his decision. With swift movements, he pulled out a knife and cut through Zara's restraints. "Run! This ends tonight, one way or another." Before Zara could move, Rico Cardano appeared like a demon through the smoke, his face twisted with rage. "Betraying us, old man!" He raised his weapon toward Solomon. "She's our only leverage." The struggle erupted with explosive violence. Solomon, despite his age, moved with the precision of decades of experience. Rico's youth and savagery made him a dangerous opponent. Zara refused to remain helpless. She spotted a fallen gun and grabbed it, her hands shaking but determined. "Stay back!" Rico snarled, ducking a blow from Solomon. His eyes held the unhinged quality of someone with nothing to lose. Across the compound, Dante moved like an avenging angel through the warehouse. Gone was the calculated crime lord who directed from a safe distance. He led from the front, his movements economical and lethal. Each shot found its mark with devastating accuracy. "Clear the east wing," he commanded, his voice carrying over the chaos. The Cardano forces, prepared for negotiation rather than full assault, fell back in disarray before his advance. Back at the car, Rico landed a devastating blow, sending Solomon crashing against the vehicle. Blood poured from a deep wound in the older man's side. Rico turned toward Zara, his smile promising death. "Your boyfriend's going to find pieces of you scattered across Chicago," Rico taunted, raising his weapon. The air crackled with tension as Dante emerged from the smoke. His usual mask of control shattered at the sight of Zara in danger. What followed wasn't the clinical violence of a Mafia Don. It was pure, primal fury. Dante's attack sent Rico stumbling backward. Each blow carried the weight of rage and fear transformed into violent purpose. Rico's experience with casual cruelty meant nothing against Dante's focused devastation. When Rico fell, broken and unconscious, the silence felt deafening. Dante turned to Zara, his eyes wild with emotions neither of them could fully name. Relief, anger, and something deeper passed between them without words. Their moment of connection shattered as Angelo Cardano's voice cut through the night. "Enough!" The elderly Don emerged from the shadows, supporting a badly wounded Solomon, his gun pressed against Solomon's head. "One move, and your peacemaker dies." Instead of immediate retaliation, Dante did something unexpected. He lowered his weapon slightly. "End this tonight," he said, his voice carrying authority and possibility. "No more blood between us." The proposal that followed stunned everyone present. Shared territories, mutual protection, a peace brokered through Solomon and Zara, whose unique connections to both families made them perfect intermediaries. Angelo studied Dante carefully, noting the changes in the younger man. His gaze shifted to his devastated forces, then to Solomon's wound, and finally to Zara, whose presence had catalyzed this transformation. "Perhaps," Angelo said slowly, "it's time for evolution rather than endless destruction." As weapons lowered, Zara rushed to Solomon's side. Her nursing training took over as she assessed his injuries. "I need a medical kit," she commanded, and men from both families moved to comply. Dante watched her work, something profound shifting in his expression. This woman, tending to a man who minutes ago was an enemy, represented a new way forward. The sunrise painted the sky in violent colors as survivors departed the warehouse. In Dante's car, silence stretched between him and Zara. Exhaustion, both physical and emotional, weighed heavily on them. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. When the doors finally closed behind them, leaving them truly alone, everything they'd held back came pouring out. Dante pulled Zara to him, his kiss desperate and tender at once. "I thought I'd lost you," he confessed, his carefully maintained control completely abandoned. "And I realized nothing, not power, not territory, not even revenge, matters without you." Their bodies came together with desperate need, apologies and confessions spilling out between kisses. Each touch carried the weight of their shared ordeal, each embrace a confirmation of survival and connection. The unspoken truth hung heavy in the air. They'd crossed a point of no return. Their worlds had collided and transformed, creating something entirely new from the wreckage of the old. The morning sun painted Chicago's skyline in shades of amber and rose as Zara leaned against the penthouse balcony railing. From 45 stories up, the city where she'd grown up looked like a different world. Beautiful and dangerous all at once, just like the man whose arms now slipped around her waist. "You're up early," Dante murmured, pressing a kiss to her neck. His touch still sent shivers down her spine, even after a month of waking up beside him. "Just thinking about everything that's changed," she replied, leaning back against his chest. "Sometimes it feels like that night at Valhalla was years ago, not months." Dante's soft chuckle vibrated against her skin. "The night you dared to slap the most dangerous man in Chicago." "The night I met the man behind the monster," she corrected, turning to face him. His eyes, usually so guarded around others, held warmth reserved only for her. Inside, Dante's phone buzzed with updates from the latest. Clinic opening in Bronzeville. The conversion of former gambling dens into community health centers had generated significant goodwill and significant tension within the organization. "Solomon's report came in," Dante said, scanning the message. "The Cardano transition is proceeding smoothly. Their territories are adapting well to the new arrangement." Zara nodded, remembering the tense meetings where former enemies now sat as cautious allies. Solomon's diplomatic skills had proven invaluable, his quiet wisdom helping bridge decades of mistrust. "The Southside Clinic opens next week," she reminded him. "My mother's already volunteering to help with patient orientation." A ghost of a smile touched Dante's lips. "She's as unstoppable as her daughter." Their peaceful morning was interrupted by Marco's arrival. "The captains are assembled, boss." Dante's expression hardened into the mask he wore for business. Zara recognized the tension in his shoulders. These meetings had grown increasingly contentious as he pushed the organization in new directions. The conference room fell silent as they entered. 12 captains sat around the massive table, with Vincenzo at the far end. His disapproving gaze followed Zara as she took her seat beside Dante. "The numbers from the clinic conversions," Elena began, distributing reports. "Revenue is stable, with projected growth once insurance partnerships activate." "Revenue isn't the issue," Vincenzo cut in. "Our men are questioning the direction of this family. We're becoming social workers instead of soldiers." Dante's voice remained calm, but Zara felt the dangerous undercurrent. "The old ways brought us endless war. Evolution isn't weakness, it's survival." "Evolution?" Vincenzo scoffed. "You mean domestication, ever since this nurse domesticated you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dante rose slowly, his movement deliberately controlled. "Choose your next words carefully, old friend." Vincenzo stood as well, years of frustrated ambition boiling over. "The girl has made you weak. The Dante Rossi I knew wouldn't negotiate with enemies or waste resources on charity." "The Dante Rossi you knew," he replied softly, "would have already put a bullet in your head for this insubordination." The threat hung heavy in the air. Other captains shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the precipice they stood upon. "Perhaps," Vincenzo sneered, "accidents happen, even to favored nurses in dangerous cities." Dante moved faster than Zara could track. One moment Vincenzo stood defiant, the next he was slammed against the wall, Dante's forearm across his throat. "Let me be perfectly clear," Dante's voice carried to every corner of the silent room. "Challenge my decisions if you wish, question my strategies, but threaten what's mine." His pressure increased until Vincenzo's face reddened. That's a death warrant you don't want to sign. He released Vincenzo, who collapsed gasping. Anyone else care to discuss my leadership choices? The meeting proceeded without further interruption. Later that week, Zara walked through the nursing school halls, Marco's presence a discreet shadow behind her. Students whispered as she passed, stories of her transformation spreading like wildfire. Is it true she lives in the Rossi Tower? I heard she runs his legitimate businesses now. My cousin said she negotiated peace with the Cardanos. Zara focused on her studies, finding surprising harmony between her two worlds. Her practical experience from the clinic projects enhanced her coursework, while her medical knowledge helped Dante navigate healthcare acquisitions. In the evenings, they developed new routines. Dante taught her about power dynamics and strategic thinking, while she helped him understand community needs and healthcare operations. Their differences complemented each other, creating something stronger than either could achieve alone. You've adapted well, Dante observed one night, watching her review proposals for a new medical center. You sound surprised, she teased. Pleased, he corrected. You've maintained your principles while learning to navigate our world. It's impressive. Coming from Dante, the compliment carried significant weight. She'd seen him execute ruthless decisions to protect their interests, yet also witnessed his growing commitment to positive change. They worked together at his desk, her medical expertise blending with his business acumen as they planned the next phase of community development. The city sprawled below them, a testament to the power they wielded and the responsibility that came with it. Your mother's clinic program is ready to expand, Dante noted, reviewing the latest reports. She's identified 3 more neighborhoods that need services. Zara smiled, remembering her mother's fierce dedication to helping others, a trait that had shaped her own path and increasingly influenced Dante's vision for the future. The Chicago skyline glittered like scattered diamonds as Dante led Zara to the rooftop garden. Her gasp of surprise echoed in the evening air. Where there had once been bare concrete, lush greenery now thrived. Climbing roses, twinkling lights woven through pergolas, and comfortable seating areas nestled among blooming flowers. When did you do all this? Zara breathed, taking in the transformation. Over the past month, Dante's fingers intertwined with hers. I wanted to create something beautiful up here. Something that reminds me of her. Zara squeezed his hand, knowing he meant his mother. They settled onto a cushioned bench. The city spread before them like a glittering carpet. My mother loved gardens, Dante said softly, his usual guarded expression softening with memories. She would spend hours tending to her roses, telling me stories while she worked. Even in the heart of the city, she created this oasis of peace. Zara listened, cherishing these rare glimpses into his past. The wind rustled through the climbing vines, carrying the sweet scent of jasmine. She would have adored you, he continued, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. Your strength, your compassion, your refusal to be intimidated, even by me. A small smile played at his lips. Especially by me. Tell me more about her, Zara encouraged, curling closer to him. She believed that true power came from love, not fear. I thought she was naive. He shook his head. I spent years building walls, convincing myself that her gentleness was a weakness that got her killed. But she was right all along. The city lights reflected in his dark eyes as he turned to face Zara. The night you slapped me, something she once told me came rushing back. I hadn't thought about it in years. What did she say? The one who will save you will be the one brave enough to challenge you. His voice carried a hint of wonder. In that moment, when everyone else in that club was frozen in fear, you showed me exactly who you were. No pretense, no agenda, just pure, righteous anger. Zara remembered that night, the fear and defiance that had driven her to strike one of Chicago's most dangerous men. I thought you were going to kill me. Instead, you brought me back to life. Dante stood, pulling her to her feet. The city lights created a halo around them as he reached into his pocket. You claimed me that night, even if neither of us knew it then. You saw past the monster, past the myth, to the man beneath it all. Zara's breath caught as Dante lowered himself to one knee, holding up a ring that seemed to capture starlight in its black diamond depths. Now, I'm asking you to claim me forever, he said, his voice rough with emotion. To continue challenging me, saving me, loving me, even when I make it difficult. Especially then. Tears blurred Zara's vision as she nodded, unable to speak. Dante slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted of salt and joy and promise. 1 year later, Zara adjusted her white coat, heart swelling with pride, as she surveyed the crowd gathered outside the Imani Rossi Memorial Clinic. The building stood proud in the heart of Southside, its modern facade a beacon of hope in the neighborhood that had shaped her. Her mother squeezed her hand, eyes glistening, as they watched community members gather for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The clinic represented everything they'd dreamed of: accessible healthcare, community programs, and a bridge between worlds that had seemed impossibly distant just 2 years ago. Camera flashes peppered the crowd as reporters documented the latest legitimate expansion of the Rossi Empire. Zara caught glimpses of familiar faces: Solomon Carter representing the Cardano interests, Elena managing the press with practiced ease, Marco coordinating security with his usual efficiency. But her eyes sought and found Dante in the crowd. He stood slightly apart, commanding attention without effort. The ruthless crime boss was still there in his bearing, but tempered now with something deeper. Their gazes met across the space, 1,000 unspoken words passing between them. As if drawn by her thoughts, Dante moved through the crowd to join her. His arm slid around her waist, a gesture both possessive and supportive. The black diamond on her finger caught the sunlight as she leaned into him. "Is this the legacy you imagined?" she asked softly, taking in the scene before them. The clinic that would serve thousands, the communities coming together, the future they were building. Dante's smile, genuine and unguarded, still had the power to take her breath away. "It's better," he replied, voice rich with amusement. "You slapped some sense into me." Their shared laughter drew curious glances from the crowd. Few would recognize this happy couple as the dangerous Mafia boss and the brave woman who had dared to challenge him. Fewer still would understand how that single act of defiance had rippled outward, transforming not just their lives, but the very fabric of the city they now served. The sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the gathering. Dante pressed a kiss to Zara's temple, his public display of affection causing more surprised looks from those who remembered his former coldness. But neither of them noticed, too absorbed in the moment and each other.